All right. So it's 10:01 and we have a room full here. Welcome everyone. We're super happy to have you this morning, and we're grateful to have Nathan Turner here as our host for this morning's event. You want to say a quick hi, Nate, before we get going?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me.
Awesome. So what we'll do is I'm just going to run a very quick intro to overview what we're going to do in the event today. And then we'll be off and running. Okay. So this is, again, an event for Northwest Ohio, many counties. So here's our agenda. We just have this very short intro that we're going to do here. Should take more than a couple of minutes. Then we have our tech spotlight, where Nate is going to show you some very cool functionality in his wheelchair and his accessible van, and talk about those things a little bit. And then he's going to welcome in a personal friend of his, kind of as a special guest, Renee Wood, since she uses some of the functionality that Nate has in his wheelchair on a day-to-day basis. So that'll be very interesting. And then the vast majority of the time today will be questions and answers, because this event is really tailored for individuals and families. We want this to be about you. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have comments on how technology could, or maybe is already fitting into your life, we want to hear from you. So we hope that you'll, participate with us in that discussion. Okay, we always want to mention just a few things about our virtual presence in case you want to keep in touch with what we're doing. The best way to do that is at our website, ohiotechambassadors.org. You can register for our events there. You can connect to all of our social media and our YouTube page, and find out a little more about each of our tech ambassadors. We do have a Facebook and an Instagram page, and we have a YouTube channel where this and all of our events are recorded and posted. So if you missed any of the events that we've had so far, we hope you'll check those out on YouTube. On any of those three platforms, all you have to do while you're on the platform, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, is just search for Ohio Tech Ambassadors. We should come right up. So as you may know, we have 5 tech ambassadors, and we've split the state of Ohio up into 5 regions. So the counties in the blue in this graphic here are the ones that this event is specifically targeted toward, and where we send out special invitations to folks to attend. Real quickly, we'll just go over our event schedule. We've had a really kind of a wild ride here. We did a kickoff event in January. Then we did what we call our round 1 regional meeting. So we had one meeting in each of those 5 regions of Ohio in February and March. We kind of had a midpoint meeting that we called Tech Ambassadors Listen. And now we are most of the way through our round 2 of regional meetings. As you can see, we've got just one more next week. And then near the end of May, we plan to have a statewide event where we sort of wrap up what we're doing and kind of report back to everyone in the state. All right. Right on to our tech spotlight. So Nate, if you're ready to launch into that, I can either go ahead and start our first video, or if you want to sort of set up what we're going to see, feel free to do that.
Maybe you could start the video and then I'll provide context afterward, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely, sure. All right. Share that video.
I have posterior and anterior tilt, and also seat elevation, and then a full standing function.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for reference, this is a Permobile F5, so it's a forward driving chair. I'm going to do the standing first, so that you can see it.
Yeah.
So this is able to bring me into a fully upright position for standing. It's predominantly designed for pressure relief,
Okay.
but it has so many other benefits for me. Everything from breathing to digestion to cardiac function to leg strengthening, which is probably the one that people think about first.
Hmm.
But
So this is something that you do every day?
I do it periodically. I do it periodically. The goal is every day, but if I'm being honest, I do so many things.
Yeah.
Sometimes I prioritize other things and other people before I prioritize myself. And I can actually drive myself while standing.
All right, I'll just say that was the first time I've ever seen somebody come to a full stand in a wheelchair like that, and I've definitely never seen one move in a standing position. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, they're becoming more and more common, and I think part of it is a shift in attitude and how sort of insurance companies hopefully are thinking about how people with disabilities use DME and really using it to be more independent. I know you and I have talked about how we work as tech ambassadors, and I've talked a lot about how advocacy intersects a lot with technology. And in my case, I really had to know myself to know my disability and know how DME would help me to live more independently. And I had to critically think about how it would enhance my life and then communicate that to my medical and my therapy team to be able to come up with the medical necessity to get my standing wheelchair funded through Medicaid, which is very difficult to do. And I was the first person in my seating clinic to be able to do that.
Excellent. All right, are we ready for video number 2?
Yes.
All right, let's get that going.
So this is my interior tilt that I use to make sure that I'm seated all the way back in my chair. Oh no. Just comes forward. And then so that's neutral. And I can also have, and that was posterior tilt, but this is anterior tilt. And I like this because it's really helpful in the community if I have a surface that is like a table or something with really awkward legs. I can use this to
Oh,
get up to it
I
and
gotcha.
just kind of be a bit more present instead of being awkwardly positioned all the time. And it really allows me to kind of connect with people a bit more, being with them more at eye level and so on.
All right. I thought that was a very relevant and enlightening, thing there. And that's
Yeah,
different from the standing position.
it is. It is. The posterior tilt and anterior tilt are very important to help me maintain a stabilized seated position because I have difficulty with my postural alignment, and so I'm constantly having to reposition myself. And the tilt allows me to stay more centered in my chair, and it also provides me with a nice way to relieve pressure on my bottom to prevent injury to it.
Okay, great. Now, I wouldn't normally take a question here, but we did have one come from Danielle Collins here who's asking, does the chair fully support you in the standing position, or do you need to use any of your own balance or strength?
Thank you for pointing that out, George. In my case, the chair, I'm fully supported in the standing position. I've got laterals on my sides and laterals at my hips and laterals at the back of my calves, as well as my chest support and the support for my knees. So I'm fully supported when I stand, um, but I still get all of the benefits of standing that I mentioned and more.
Okay, great. All right, are we ready for video number 3?
Thumbs, George.
All right, let's see. I'm going to share this one.
But if you look here, all of the modern chairs with Permobil come with an app called Connect that allows me to see how I'm using the chair, check my battery strength, see how far I can travel, so I know how much battery I have, how I've been using my chair, and if it's time for me to adjust my seating. Because a lot of folks with physical disabilities that depend on this type of chair for mobility, we run the risk of getting certain sores and other medical complications. So I'm constantly shifting my weight
Yeah.
to prevent something like that from occurring. Open Permobil. Okay, let's see if it opens it. Just in the name of having a maybe.
Opening. My Promobile.
There we go.
Oh, look at that.
So yeah, this is Permobil Connect, and you can clearly see I see my battery strength, how much estimated range before recharging. Let's see. Distance today, 0.1 miles. Okay. Whoops. Repositions today, 33. Average in the last 7 days. Yeah, so I've been obviously using it a bit more today.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of that you could and couldn't see. I know on my end, at least some of that was partially obscured. So maybe I'll work with George after to republish some of this content and maybe get it posted on social media because some of it was obscured. But part of the Permobil Connect app is keeping track of how my actuators are positioned on the chair and allowing the chair to recall that at the press of a button. I don't know that we got footage of this, but I have a setting in my chair with that will position my actuators for optimal pressure relief and relaxation for me with the press of one button. So that's another very helpful feature of the Permobil Connect app.
Okay, super cool. All right, so we have had a couple of more questions come in that we'll save for the Q&A that have to do with the chair. But I did want to make sure that we got folks a look at your van as well. I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing. So we've got a short video to show on that. I will share with everyone.
Sorry about that. The motor's kind of broken, so it's a little clanky on the way down.
Oh, that has a motor on it?
Yes.
That looked pretty quick and efficient, though.
It's supposed to be done with a button, but it has a manual override as you just saw.
And you got...
I didn't actually clean the van, but I do a good job of keeping it on clean on a daily basis, so I'm not too worried.
So then you have ways to like strap into
Yes.
like those little guys on the floor there?
Securement points on the floor, and they correspond to the 4 securement points on my chair. There's 2 up front and 2 hidden in the back.
So does that have a strap or something on it? Oh, there it is. I can see it.
Yes. Yep.
Ah.
And then the seat belt over here kind of comes across and
Yeah.
on the side.
Okay. Perfect. All right.
Obviously, I don't drive the vehicle, so it's what Brawnability calls is the companion setup. So I'm always going to be traveling with somebody. It's not modified for me to drive, and I don't think anybody wants me to drive ever. But
All right. So were these things like aftermarket, or did you buy the vehicle with this
I bought the
in it?
vehicle. The dealership included the straps,
Okay.
but I also have a set of extra straps in the back.
All right.
Nobody wants me to drive on my own, like, ever. No, but that little clip, as humorous as it was, it got me thinking about the development of driverless vehicles and the implications that it would have for the disability community and everybody else in society, really. Because someone could not be able to drive, at any point in their life for any reason, and having that technology available, even though it might be years away from maturing and becoming readily available for consumers, I think could be a game changer for the disability community.
Absolutely. Wow, I don't know if I've ever even thought of that before, Nate. That's a great point. All right. Tell me what you want to do next. Now, we do have a couple of questions here that pertain to the chair. If you'd rather take those first, or we can have Renee come on.
Why don't we have Renee come on, and then I will definitely get to the questions about the chair and the question and answer session.
Okay. All right. So we're going to find Renee, and we're going to promote her to become a panelist and join us if she wants to turn her camera and mic on. Then she could talk with us all. Welcome, Renee. Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Renee. Thanks so much for coming. I appreciate it.
No problem. Nate asked me to talk about something I found in my wheelchair by accident. a couple years ago, I broke my arm, and it was my good arm, the arm that I used to work my mouse on my computer. When I broke my arm, I'm a writer, so I gotta write. I gotta be on my computer. If I'm not on my computer typing something, I go through withdrawals. So I really need that. I just could not use my mouse. I have an on-screen keyboard, so when I use my mouse, I hover over the keys and they type for me on the keyboard. So I'm playing around with my joystick, and I found it's a Bluetooth in my joystick. I thought, oh, what's that? So I connected my computer to Bluetooth with my joystick, and my mouse started to work on my computer, so I was able to use my left hand to work my joystick and type on the computer. I found that totally by accident. I mean, that is like a well-kept secret that nobody tells you about.
Wow. And, I got to see Nathan sort of demonstrate that functionality on his chair when I visited him on Monday. It's not something that he
Demonstrate's a
really
funny word
uses.
for that.
Yeah, we got a lot of blooper reel highlights out of that since it was something that he doesn't use. But it was great to have you come on, Renee, and describe this because this was really a crucial piece of functionality for you.
Yeah,
Right.
at that time, I can use my mouth now, but at that time, I couldn't use my arm for about 4 or 5 months. So
Wow.
it was really essential.
Wow, that is great, though. And it's great that you found that all by yourself.
Man, I'm not kidding you, George. You can find so many things if you just play around with stuff and you're not afraid of it.
Absolutely. I tell people that all the time as a techie guy that you shouldn't be afraid to play around with technology. You never know what you'll discover.
Can I take 2 minutes and add on to something that you said about his wheelchair?
Yeah, go ahead.
2 weeks ago, I went out to National Seating because I wanted one of those wheelchairs. I didn't even know you had one, Nate. I didn't even know you had one. And I went out there, they put me in it and stood me up, and I took off walking without I'm not even supported. They only had the chest thing on me, and they go, oh my God, she's doing that on her own. I was just standing up and supported, moving over. So I'm hoping my insurance will pay for that.
Great. All right, Renee, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really, really appreciate your insight.
Thanks for having me.
All right,
Thank you so much, Renee. It's always a pleasure.
we'll see you.
And yes, we will break bread. No.
All right. So let's get to a couple of these follow-up questions that people had about the wheelchair. So the first one came from someone who was anonymous. It says, since Nathan was the first to get his chair paid through Medicaid, how long did the process take for them to agree to pay for this? I think that's very relevant.
Okay, so it was at least about a year and a half of planning. Me knowing that I wanted a standing wheelchair, having an appointment with the physician well before the insurance required the forms. I have my physician has a special seating clinic where I go in. I went with my SSA and I had my therapist with me, and they also the clinic themselves had a therapist that did all of the paperwork for the insurance with the doctor, and everyone was together to talk about why the standing chair was beneficial for me. Um, and then so they put the paperwork in. I had to wait a really long time. And then at the beginning of January in 2020, I got a denial from Medicaid. So actually, I had to appeal the decision. And right at the beginning of COVID, I was scheduled to have an administrative law hearing, but at the last second, they decided not to have the hearing and they just approved my wheelchair. So I'd like to think that the my medical records supported medical necessity for my wheelchair, but I do wonder if COVID-19 had an impact.
Yeah, excellent point. Next question, and this is sort of related to what you just said, but maybe you can take a slightly different angle on it and respond to this. This was, it says anonymous, but I think it might be our friend George who asked this. And he basically says, I have no insurance to buy a wheelchair, like a stand-up wheelchair. And he says, I don't know why.
Okay, so you don't know. Okay, so you might need help. Are you asking for help applying for medical services, or are you asking how you might get a standing chair without having to go through insurance? Can you clarify your question a little bit for me?
It sounds more to me when I read the question like, you know, he might need help with Medicaid or other insurance to try to get that to pay for the wheelchair.
Okay, so assistance applying for Medicaid, your SSA and county board can help with that if you have one. If not, you might reach out to local center for independent living.
That's a good piece of advice. You know, SSA is always you know, one of the first places you'll go, but that's neat that you know, there are other options too.
And then as far as paying for the chair itself, if you find that insurance does not cover it, you've got a few options. In Ohio, well, and nationally, there's something called an ABLE account, which allows eligible people with developmental disabilities to save money for things they need and not have that count as assets for other benefits. So you could save money in an ABLE account. You, your friends, your family, and even your employer or a trust might be able to donate to an ABLE account, and you could save money for a wheelchair that way. Secondly, I know Playmobil has a foundation where they will provide financial assistance to people who really need a standing chair or a specific piece of their DME, and they will help individuals pay for that in some circumstances. Um, or thirdly, I've seen some people have success crowdfunding durable medical equipment with a GoFundMe type page. so you might be able to rely on the generosity of your family and friends, which I think is unfortunate that some have to go that route, but it is an option.
Yeah. So that's really good general information. And I would say, whoever it is that asked that, you may want to follow up with Nate directly. Nathan at ohiotechambassadors.org is his email. And he's got a ton more information I think that might be helpful. So appreciate that. Great question. So we have two of these that are sort of, I think, related by Deetra Mitchell. And the question is, what is this type of chair called? And then the follow-up was meaning specific brand with the current features you have. I think you may have mentioned that in one of your videos, but let's just revisit that.
Yeah, I believe it's a Permobile, and I think they call it an F5, and it's got a letter for the standing function. So it's
Okay.
the Permobile F5 with the
Permobile
standing
F5.
function.
Great. Last one we had that sort of pertained to some of the videos had to do with the van. And this is maybe more of a comment than a question. If that's your personal van, I have worked with someone who had some sort of a lock on the bottom of her chair. She had to position her chair over the hook in the floor of the van instead of using straps to lock in. Is this something you've ever seen or heard of,
I
Nate?
think I've seen that type of locking system. It's a bit different and I think more expensive than the one I have. And the one I have was included with the van. But yes, I have seen that, and I'm vaguely familiar with how it works. I don't know if I think that was from Danielle Collins. I don't know if she's still on the call and
Yes.
want to elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. The thing that my 2 cents when I saw how that was organized in your van is that it looked a lot like what I had seen on public transportation. In one of the other events, I got a chance to see one of our other tech ambassadors, Robert Shoemake, board a bus and have the bus driver come back and attach the straps, much like someone would be doing for Nate. Okay. I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's take a quick second here and do a poll. And this is a poll. I'm going to launch it right now on technology barriers. If you've been with us in other events, you may have seen and answered the questions in this poll already. If you have, that's fine. You're welcome to answer again. But especially if we haven't had you as a guest in one of our webinars before, I would love to get your feedback on these two questions that have to do with technology barriers. So the first one is, what's the biggest barrier to people with developmental disabilities attending events like the one that we're having today? And then the second question is, what is the biggest barrier to people with developmental disabilities just using technology in their everyday lives? And we are collecting information from folks in all of these events on these very specific two questions, because we want to know what you all think. So we appreciate the time and feedback that you're giving. We've got some folks giving us that right now. Again, what's the biggest barrier to people with developmental disabilities attending events like the one we're having? And then what's the biggest barrier to people with developmental disabilities using technology in their lives? So we'll leave that up here for just another minute before I close that. And let's move on to some questions that folks had sent in with their registrations. First one came from Stephen Tucker, who's the superintendent at Henry County, and more of a topic maybe for us to comment on than a question. Just mentioned simple technology tools that make a big difference. For example, just getting a Roomba to help clean a person's home. Any comment you have on that one, Nate?
Yeah, I definitely think that things that can be integrated within a home automation type of setup through a digital assistant are a great place to start for people with disabilities. And I know that the tech ambassadors have covered a lot on the digital assistants, but I think that's predominantly because there's a lot of information out there about how to use them and how they work, but maybe not all of that information is accessible to everybody and meets everybody where they are. So I think if we're able to kind of continue this type of work, maybe one thing we look at is looking at how these digital assistants work and how we can communicate those functions and capabilities to the disability community in an accessible way and manner, and just be able to meet them where they are, because I think that that's going to be one of the simplest ways and most affordable ways for people with disabilities to enhance their independence through technology is by integrating with one of these digital assistants. And I know several of our tech ambassadors, especially Tanner Huff, has experience using a integrated vacuum like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was going to make sure that that got said. We have two events that Tanner has hosted already. One of them where he actually demonstrates a Roomba style automated vacuum that he uses in his home. And then the other, he also demonstrates some other things that we would consider to be very low tech, but make a big difference in his life. So we don't always function in these events, or we don't always focus, I should say, in these events on the very high tech things. Sometimes very inexpensive low tech things, like it's actually a dish brush that he uses that's sort of suction cup to the bottom of his sink. And all of those things we consider to be assistive technology, and they can all be relevant. And if you go check out our YouTube channel, you could actually watch one or both of those videos. All right, so thank you for that question. We had a question come in from Connor Smenner, really, and the comment really was just tech for the home. It seems like that might have kind of dovetailed with the question that we just answered, but I'll let you, Nate, if you want to respond or add anything to Connor.
Yeah, I think I would say a lot of the same things, in that tech for the home would be centered around home automation and integrating a digital assistant in with various tools of home automation like light bulbs. I know some refrigerators, the Roomba vacuum. I'm sure there are more cameras. I don't know if you have any other ideas off the top of your head, George.
Oh, I mean, thermostats, which we've covered. But to me, one of the most exciting things in the last 2 to 3 years is the fact that some of these digital assistant home automation style things that literally anybody would have in their home, that most of us think of as and use as just a convenience, right? I don't want to walk over and turn off the lights at the light switch. But for some people, that can really be a huge difference maker in terms of their ability to control their environment. And they literally couldn't just walk over and flip the light switch.
Yeah, for people without disabilities, I think it's seen as a convenience. But for people with disabilities, and this can't be overstated enough, is it's able to increase our independence and give us our dignity, to allow us to do a lot of some of these really personal tasks, with medication reminders and other things, or even just something as innocuous as controlling the lights, to be able to have our dignity and to decide when we want the lights to go on and off, I think is a really powerful thing.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that. Let's see. Here is another question in the Q&A from Mariah Keister. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right, Mariah. But her question is, how do I help an individual who wants to learn more about assistive technology, and like an assessment possibly on what types of assistive technology would help them?
So I think you've got a few options. You've got more formal options that have funding and waivers associated with them. Through the waiver, an individual can have an assistive technology evaluation and consultation from a vendor. But I think a lot of the education on technology comes from natural support and experienced family members and friends in the community, where someone is encouraging someone else to try this out or let me show you how to do this. And that's where I think we as tech ambassadors play a really big role, being that sort of bridge, that natural support in between the individual and their SSA and paid vendors in terms of explaining this technology a little bit, encouraging its use, and just kind of being there and letting them know that it's okay to try and that we're going to help them on this journey, possibly to more independence. But even if it's just connecting in some small way, logging onto the internet and researching an activity or talking to a friend is meaningful and needs to be supported and explored, but it doesn't always have to be through formal channels.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we're here to be that sort of like liaison or intermediary to maybe try to help guide people to resources. Ultimately, though, I think Mariah, since I'm looking at our registration, is an SSA in Ashtabula. For SSAs, I really want to highlight the importance of those remote support and assistive technology vendors in the state. Those are going to be one of the best possible resources for you, because almost all of those folks would actually send a rep to that person's home to do an assessment of the home, meet the person and talk to that person, talk to you as the SSA, and possibly other team members. And even if this person is not a candidate for remote supports and they just need assistive technology, these same companies can give good advice in most cases, and sometimes just set up equipment and train the folks on how to use them. So, and she's sending in a follow-up here about where can she find vendors. While we're talking here, I'm gonna find the link that we have on our Ohio Tech Ambassadors website to a list of all the remote support vendors that we have in the state. And I'll try to post that in the chat here. Here's a comment from Cynthia, and I'm not sure if this is Die, D-E-Y-E.
Hi, Cindy. I can't see you. I hope you're well.
Oh, Cynthia.
I
So
do.
her comment is, I think individuals don't think they need home-assisted devices because they have staff in their home. And her comment is, I think these small things give them independence, even if they do have staff. That's relevant.
Yeah, it's very relevant. Anything an individual can do to increase their independence or interdependence, I think is very valuable, as I said. And technology is going to be one of the key forces for us as a DD community and Ohio in the DD system to make sure that we have a balance between supporting individuals with staff, but allowing them to be as interdependent as possible.
Great. All right. Well, it looks like we have someone who's had their hand up for quite a while here.
Maybe he's somebody we know also.
I think it might be someone that we know. We're going to promote this guest to come on with us as a panelist and ask a question live. Oh, look, it's Chris Cooley, another one of our tech ambassadors. Hi, Chris.
And I'm disappointed.
Hey,
I'm disappointed, Nathan. When
Oh.
you said you're going to show your van, I was hoping to see you be able to drive it with all the connections up at the top. But anyway, my question is can your chair be connected to voice? Connected to voice? helping someone that or yeah, I think I don't even know how.
Connected
But
to-
anyway, can it be connected to voice? And is it possible if somebody that was really visually impaired or blind be able to use something like that? And my other question real quick is that how would it be accessible if you go out to, like, let's say that you're going to the store and you can't, you know, they have everything all in the middle of the floor and it's really crowded. How do you get around in that store if that's the only choice you have?
Okay, so that was about 3 different questions. So I hope I try to get to them all. Um, Unfortunately, my van is not set up for me to drive. I don't think I want to drive. I don't feel safe or comfortable driving, so I'd rather take the support in that case, and I think that's better for everyone who I would encounter on the road too. So unfortunately, I'm just not going to be able to drive. But I appreciate your frustration. I mean, I wish I could, but I can't. And let's see. So you asked about accessibility challenges that I have with my chair. Yeah, I've had this chair for about a year, and there are situations because I have some difficulties just kind of with facial awareness and understanding where I am. So often I will bump into things. And I just kind of thinking about your question, I often underestimate the amount of space I need to get through things. So I get caught regularly just having such a wide chair. It is hard for me to navigate a lot of spaces, and I get upset or just a little frustrated in retail spaces when they try to cram too many things in there because I can't get around. And you
I-
had a
I'll,
third part to your question too, but
I'll just say for my part, I thought you were an excellent driver of your chair. I
you
didn't see any
obviously didn't
spatial
see the
issues when I
gash in my
visited you on
bedroom
Monday.
door.
Yeah.
But have you ever had, like, in your chair, have you ever had where you knocked over something, this door really got mad at you?
Yes, my bedroom door has a huge gash in it from when I kind of slammed into it with one of my tippers. So, yeah, I will maybe I'll take a picture of it and show you, Chris. And you also asked how someone with a like a significant visual impairment could drive an electric chair. They do have specific supports for that. It would be a different sort of style, but the manufacturers have different tools that people with visual supports can use to drive their chairs. I don't have to rely on that, so I don't have any personal experience. But I don't know if maybe Robert would have some experience with that.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right. Thanks so
Yeah,
much,
thank you,
Chris. We always
Chris.
appreciate you coming on.
Yes.
There we go. So let's see what other questions do we have. Let's see if we have our friend George with us here. He had asked a question about with his registration about an app. And if you've been with us in more than one of these, you may have heard about this app because George has talked about this multiple times. It's called Voice It. And the app takes speech for folks who may be really difficult to understand. And it will speak those words. You can teach it your specific speech patterns, and then it will actually say those words clearly so that you can talk to folks, for lack of a better way to say that. And this is something that George has asked us about, and I've actually done a little bit of investigation into it. So I do see him raising his hand here. Let me promote George to panelist, because one thing I want to ask you, George, have you had a chance to actually try this app out yet? Here comes George. He's joining us.
Hi.
Hi, George.
Hi. Hi.
So have you had a chance to try out Voice It yet?
No.
Were you able to sign up for the trial?
Yeah, but I cannot put it on my computer.
So my memory is this is an app for iPhones or iPads.
Yeah, but I want some way to get it on my computer.
So you're looking for something similar that would work on the computer instead of on an iPhone?
Yeah,
Ah, okay.
that's right.
Well, here's a question for Nate.
Yeah.
Some of the things that you've demonstrated, maybe the Windows app that you use with your Android phone that you demonstrated in the first event,
Yeah.
do you think that it would be possible to take an iPhone app, display it on a computer, and use the app so that, you know, maybe we could actually interact with the
My
computer rather than just the phone?
understanding is that the iPhones have very limited functionality in the Your Phone app, but I think you can read like the text messages.
Okay. So that might not be a great way to achieve that same functionality on a computer that we have on the iPhone.
I haven't tested it with an iPhone, but I do know that the functionality is limited.
Yeah, because I got some people on my Gmail on my computer.
George, a question for you. Do you think maybe if you got Gmail on your phone
Yeah.
rather than on the computer, you could use the
It's
voice
better-
with Gmail?
It's better for me to talk to people on my computer on Gmail.
Okay. That'd be something to try, but I hope you'll keep in touch with us offline. George has emailed.
I will.
Yeah, and Google Meet is integrated into Gmail now too, so that might also be helpful for you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again for coming on, George. All right, we've got just a little bit of time here. We've got one more poll question we want to ask. And that one is on what we're calling helpful technology. So which types of assistive technology that we have listed, these are sort of categories of assistive technology, do you feel is most helpful to people with developmental disabilities? So we'll give folks a minute to help provide us with some feedback to that question. Again, which type of assistive technology below do you feel is most helpful to people with developmental disabilities? So we'll leave that question there. And let's see, we've got a question, and Nate, I think you know what these questions are. We've got one about working remotely and another about, person-centered planning. Either of those you think you might like to tackle?
Oh, sure. So with my other job, I work part-time doing search engine relevancy testing, and I work entirely remotely. I basically spend all day evaluating search results and queries for their helpfulness based on a set of criteria. So I know a lot about how a search engine result page should function and what it should look like and what results should be at the top of the page. So I really appreciate that opportunity because it gives me a lot of flexibility to be able to work on my advocacy in the disability community and support all of the nonprofits I do. I also sit on the board for the Ohio Self-Determination Association, and I sit on the legal aid board in Northwestern Ohio. In addition to sitting on the Lucas County Board of Developmental Disabilities and helping out a lot at the Ability Center of Greater Toledo. So I'm thankful for both the flexibility that my job provides, but also it allows me to really focus in on an interest area that's passionate for me. So it's really not like work. It's a job that I love in working on technology, but also allowing me to focus on learning more about these digital assistants and helping other people use them.
Excellent. Well, let's get this this last question in here too. This is from Doug Fletcher. How can technology help individuals with person-centered planning and outcomes?
So I think technology can really facilitate the person-centered planning process. Just as a person with high physical needs, I'm grateful for the opportunity to digitally sign all of my board documents because it's a lot of paperwork to have to sign and maintain, and my hands get tired. So that innovation, in addition to meeting with providers over virtual meetings, I think is really, really helpful for a variety of different scenarios. But then lastly, Ohio is rolling out an integrated ISP project, the Ohio ISP, which will allow, I believe in 2023, individuals and SSAs to to manage a lot of that paperwork electronically and see it electronically in a portal so that it's all organized and individuals would have access to update information. And the hope is that it would streamline the waiver eligibility process and just understanding the services that the waiver provides for individuals and families, but also SSAs.
Yeah, great point. Great point. Um, let's see. I do not see any other questions. So unless we get one here in the next minute, I am just going to make sure that that we thank all of you for coming.
Hey, George, I got a quick
Our-
question.
Jeremy?
Yeah,
Sure.
quick question. Nate, back to your wheelchair. I saw that you pulled up the app showing your battery and stuff. How long does that battery last on that chair? And then, like, how long does it take to charge it up? And then, what would happen if you were out in the community and it did die?
So the philosophy around charging is all night, every night. There was a sticker on the back of the chair that said that. So I charge it all night, every night. It says it estimates about 14 hours of use for me, but that's going to fluctuate because the actuators use a fair amount of the battery's power. So depending on how much I need to shift my weight is going to depend on how long the battery will last. When I know that I'm going to be, up and about for more than 14 hours, I know that I need to carry my charger with me.
Yeah, good point. Good point. All right, thanks for that question, Jeremy. All right, well, it's 11 o'clock. So again, just thanks to everyone for coming. We always appreciate your participation and your questions. And we love the discussion. That's really what these events are all about. Thanks to Jeremy and Courtney who help us put these on. Thanks so much to our ASL interpreters who always do such a great job. And thank you so much, Nate, for having me over to get some of that video and for providing such good information and feedback for everyone.
It was such my pleasure to do this, and I'm really glad that you all were able to attend today. I think in no small part, we're the 5 tech ambassadors, but we can't do what we do without buy-in and commitment from you all and the individuals and families that support us, because in a way we're encouraging all people with disabilities to sort of be their own tech ambassador and to take a critical look about how technology might be able to make them be more independent, and the role that families and SSAs play is significant in that process, and really just encouraging that adoption. So thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it.
Absolutely. I couldn't say that better. So on that note, we will just wish everyone a happy and great Thursday. And you may join us next Tuesday where Chris Cooley will have his event.
And
All right,
if for
everyone.
some reason I wasn't able to get a hold of your question, please feel free to contact me at nathan@ohiotechambassadors.org. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, everyone.